My name is Fraser Stark. I'm the head of EMEA for Influitive, and I'm moderating the panel today along with our three panelists. The topic is about accelerating growth by mobilizing an army of customer advocates. What that means, it's companies that use their customers as an integral part of their go-to-market strategy. So we've got three companies here today. They're going to share their ideas, some of the tricks they've learned. We're going to do something a little bit different, though, today. We're going to include you as the audience as the fourth panelist. So I think there's a lot of great perspective up here about how these topics work, but we're going to have microphones in the audience, and I'd love your ideas to these questions as well. At the end, we'll have some questions that can come from you to the panel or to one another. So we're going to try to run this a little bit like a workshop, but let's get started. If you can introduce yourselves, please, Lidia.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Lidia Luetten, and I'm the CMO of Bynder. Bynder is a marketing technology company, and we help marketers of companies like Spotify or Puma to manage and distribute all their creative files.
Yes, sure. Good morning, everyone. My name's Cristina Meluzzi. I'm the head of customer advocacy for Cisco in EMEA, and I'm pretty sure all of you know what Cisco do, so no explanation needed there. But what you might have seen recently is that Cisco is in the middle of a huge transformation. We launched the network Influitive, which is all around using your network to see learnings, almost like a driverless car type of experience for the network, where you're actually making real-time improvements.
Hey everyone, I'm Mark Organ. I'm founder and CEO of Influitive. We help companies discover, nurture, and mobilize their customer advocates in order to grow faster and more efficiently.
Great, thank you. Okay, so the first question for the panel is about, I'm curious on what the strategic objectives are that you look to your advocates in order to help you achieve. And then what are the specific actions that you've engaged with those customers to complete in order to hit those objectives? So why don't we start with Lidia?
I think like for most SaaS companies out there, net retention is a very much most important metric out there, and our customer advocates help us improving that metric simply by, if they're happy, we're happy, and they're not churning. The other thing is, from a marketing perspective, it helps us to generate new business. So customers leave reviews for us on software comparison sites like G2 Crowd or GetApp. They share our content on social media, or they co-produce content with us, and yeah, many more things. These are just some examples.
Great. Cristina?
Yeah, sure. So Cisco is a business that is predominantly run through its partner ecosystem. So 99% of our business goes through partners. And one of the things, the big challenges we face as a business with the industry and the shift that we're seeing is that we need to be truly customer-centric. So Cisco's been saying that we're moving to being customer-centric, but it's only really now that we're starting to embrace that truly. So some of the things that we're doing with our advocacy program is mobilizing our customers to be an extension of our brand. So the kind of things that we look them to do, we ask our customers to do is to produce content for us. So we mobilize them through a journey. So if you think about a traditional reference program, this is kind of like the 2.0 of a reference program, where you're getting your customers to be the real voice, and you're almost putting the control of your brand in their hands, and it takes a lot of trust to do that, and especially for a company like Cisco. So we're doing things, as Lidia said, we're motivating and mobilizing customers to leave reviews. We're using them to provide referrals, so customers in their business who might be potential customers for Cisco. We're also working with our customers to produce content that is pretty much 100% driven by them, and we're learning from people like Influitive who really do drink their own champagne. And the power of leveraging your customers to tell the story about your company is incredible. And one of the biggest value points that we've seen as a business is that we've uncovered tons and tons of customers that we didn't know would be would tell our story. So customers that could potentially be in the commercial space that we hadn't really considered before. So yeah, it's a huge opportunity.
Cristina, did you start with that broad list of objectives and actions that people were taking, or did that evolve over time as you developed the program?
It's evolved over time. As we started working on this advocacy program, it was, it's brand new to Cisco. It's quite scary actually, because you're giving customers a lot more of a voice. And when we started out on the journey, we thought we may get some customers, potentially network engineers or sort of early in career type of professionals who might engage in a program like this. But it turns out that customers across the board, we have CTOs down to network engineers who are participating in the program. And it really has evolved over time where, different people are motivated by different things. So it's about having that right mix and making sure that your program is built around the audience.
Great, Mark, you know a thing or two about customer advocacy. What's
I mean, we're in the space, but we're really trying to take it to the next level. So in terms of strategic objectives, one of the things that I'm working on right now is a book. Sometimes I wish I'd never started that project. It's a lot of work. But one of the things that's making it a bit easier is that we're getting our customer advocates and bringing them into the book writing process, which has been a really rewarding thing for me. So I might write a half-written chapter and put it out to our customer base and say, do you have any way to improve this? Do you have any stories or data that might make this better? And in some cases, that's taken these chapters in different directions than I might not have expected, but it's made them really great. I think it's the power of opening up, the four walls of your business and letting your customers in and letting them be part of the process, letting them feel ownership over it. So this book is as much their book as it is my book, which I think is great. So strategy for me means, well, what real estate do you want to own as a company, and what's the path to getting there? So for a lot of that, for me, is about product, and I think this is a CTO stage. So I assume we've got some heads of product, CTOs in the room. This is a slow-moving boat, right? The engineering and product organization. You're making bets for 3 to 5 years, so you really should be betting on the right things. And so we are getting a lot more customer involvement in our product development process now. We'll go and say, hey, look, these are 7 big ideas for products that we're looking at for the next year. What should we prioritize? We even had advocates opine on a possible acquisition that we were considering. And in this case, advocates clearly said, no, you shouldn't buy that company. That's not something that's actually very interesting for us. So these are big strategic questions. And it's remarkable to me how many CTOs and heads of product and engineering make their decisions in a vacuum. They really don't get enough of that customer input that they really should. And by one way of having advocate program, one advantage is you bring them in. The other thing too is they love it, right? So, I mean, asking advocates for referrals, they'll do that for you for sure. And giving you reviews online and GetApp and that sort of thing, they'll do it. But when you ask them to provide strategic advice for you, they really feel like they're part of your company. In some cases, more part of your company than their company. It's really interesting. And so those are some things we're working on now.
Yeah, I love hearing about the edge cases, the things that people do with their customers that are different than the sort of standard 5 or 6 things. Every time I hear about a new company that's engaged its advocates effectively, they'll tell me something that just makes my head spin because I haven't thought of it before. So I like writing a book with your customers is brilliant. I think there's some great perspectives here. I'm sure some of you have ideas. Is there anyone in the audience who wants to share something, either the objective that you've used your advocates to help you achieve or specific actions you've taken? Welcome any thoughts from the audience. Just raise your hand and a mic will come to you. Still early. Come on, there's a hand. Thank you.
I guess it's a question just regarding a challenge we're facing as a business at the moment, which is trying to create a new category. And we have advocates in fairly large companies using our software at the moment, but we're still at the beginning of the journey of trying to figure out how to approach that challenge. So I wondered whether there was any advice or thoughts on that.
You doing anything with those customers today? Are they helping you in some nascent ways?
So actually, we just started using Influitive this week to help us do some case studies and things with some of our bigger customers. We work mainly with sort of B2B enterprise brands IBM, PayPal, companies like this. So
Great.
they're good brands, but we haven't really started on the journey of actually, figuring out this
Great.
content, this creation.
Mark, I'll go back to you because I think you know something about category creation as well as advocacy. How do those two ideas
It's a good
marry
question.
up?
Yeah, this is kind of like my life's work is trying to figure out how to build these categories. So, I mean, my theory on how to build a great category is hopefully you've chosen a group of customers that, because of disruptive technology, are going to really grow much more powerful and numerous. And that's sort of my system for how to build a category. So I think a big part of building a great category is understanding the mental model of these special users and customers, and trying to like, what words do they use? How do they describe your company and your products? And Advocate Program is actually a great way to do that. In fact, we have one of our customers. They're here, right here, Okta, right over there. And Okta is in a very competitive industry in single sign-on technologies. And one of the things that they did is they asked advocates questions that you might think are a little bit silly, like, so if our company was an animal, what animal would it be? And the reason why they're asking questions like that is, again, they're trying to understand how these people, these networking engineers, how they think about their product. They asked them, can you, if you were to design an ad for us, like what would that ad look like? What would the tagline be? And in fact, they did get a number of great advertisements that were created by their advocates for the company. This kind of work allowed Okta to really have breakthrough messaging that spoke so deeply to their target market that they did rocket ahead of pretty much all of their peers. Interestingly, a lot of them use our technology as well, but they use their product so much more strategically, I think, that they were able to get ahead. So that's what I would do. So you try to create a category. Again, you want to understand at a very deep level. You want to understand how your users and customers, how they think about you versus other things in the world. And then when you market to them in the way that they think in their mental model. When you build things for them, you build things that make sense based on how they think about the space. So that would be some advice there.
Great.
Anyone else?
Yeah. I want to move on to the next question, if that's okay. So I think it's clear from that first session, or the first part, that there's a number of ways customers can help a company with its growth. But I'd love to get from each of you, maybe we'll start with Cristina, why is it that you believe Cisco customers are willing to help drive your growth? What's the core motivator for them? Why are they willing to do these things for a B2B brand, a company they buy for their work?
Really interesting question. And I had the same question when we kicked off this program. Who's going to do this? Who's going to be motivated to go out of their way and advocate on behalf of a company like Cisco? We struggled to get that connection, and it was really, really difficult initially. But it turns out that people are really, really proud of what they do. And they're proud of their purchases, they're proud of the decisions they've made for their businesses, and most of the time they want to share their knowledge, their experience, and their success with their peers. So really, our program is predominantly built around helping our customers to share their success, to be the hero within their organization, and to also help them grow their own personal brand. So really, a lot of our program is focused around those core areas where we're supporting our customers to evangelize what they do internally and externally, but also help them to grow their own personal brand.
Yeah, I really like that idea of pride as a key motivator. Lidia, is it similar at Bynder, or do you have nuanced differences?
Definitely similar. So it's like a win-win situation with the customers. I mean, we profit by them doing things for us, like speaking for us, but they also can establish their personal brand. For example, this year we were at another conference in London, and we got to speak on stage with Aston Martin, which is one of our clients.
I was there, I saw that.
Oh yes, true. So that's great, and that's something we would not have been able to do if we would have not a customer advocacy program.
Yeah. Mark, I mean, we've got a pretty sophisticated program at Influitive. Why do you think our advocates are motivating?
Yeah, and I think we have some great thoughts here as well, on which I would call sort of social capital, right? That people want to improve their prospects in their career and their life by advocating. And if you think about probably a lot of the things that you advocate for. If you're at a cocktail party and you were to say, yeah, I'm using this product and it's awesome, like, why are you doing that? Some of it is you think you're doing a favor for people because this is a great product, but also your brand goes up by extension of this other product that you're advocating for. So those are some great thoughts. I think people want to be part of something that's bigger than themselves. So a lot of our advocates, they feel passionate about our mission. They believe the best way to go to market is have your customers do the marketing for you, do the sales for you, and they believe that passionately. It's a higher calling, and so that's one of the things that I've seen pretty consistently, from our advocates, but also from our customers that have great advocate programs, is that they're about something way bigger than their company or product. So even if you have kind of you think of it as a boring product, what's the bigger picture, the bigger reason for why your company exists, why your product exists? Those are the kinds of things that I think really draw people to an advocate program. They feel like they're part of a movement.
Yeah. One thing that none of our three panelists are saying is that each of their companies, and I work for one of them, but each of these three companies really changes the way their buyers do their job, right? It's a fundamental shift, and I think that underlying passion is pretty powerful, and then you build on it with concepts around pride and win-win that are great. Anyone in the audience? Yeah, we have a comment here, Astrid. Thank you. If you can introduce yourself and your company quickly first as well, thanks.
Sure. Hi, Lidia Youngren. I'm the VP of Marketing for Triple C. We are an Influitive user.
Oh, great.
And we started customer advocacy about 3 years ago. Our challenge, and I don't know, it's advice from the panelists, is how do you reach the more senior members of the staff? So our engagement is mostly consistent of the entry level or people in the early stages of their career who have perhaps more time or more interest in using the programs. And essentially, we have, it's kind of divided into education, fun, and an ask. The fun, no problem. Everyone will do those challenges. Everyone will fill out. And I know I'm getting a little bit particular to Influitive, but just in general, reaching the higher level professionals as well as getting them to do the stuff that actually matters.
It's a great segue into the next question we were moving to. It's perfect. So challenges and resolutions. So I'll start with any comments on this concept. The holy grail is getting people to be advocates, getting customers who matter, quite frankly, to do things that matter, and not have junior people playing games in a sort of program. So totally hear you on the question. What have each of you done in that regard? Maybe Cristina, we can start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. We were just talking, we had a meeting with Influitive and our VP of Marketing this week, and we were talking about exactly that. As I said at the beginning of this discussion, we were very surprised initially to see that senior decision makers were, interested and wanted to be part of the program. But really what it comes down to for us is segmentation and understanding your audience and your persona. So we've built out our program and are continuing to grow our program by really segmenting groups. We're getting a lot of advice from Fraser and Mark and the whole team on how to do that properly. But really, for example, when we're looking at how can we motivate and mobilize CTOs or senior decision makers in the tech space, it's around how do you build a program that motivates them. What are the things that motivate them? Is it that they want to start writing or contributing to Cisco blogs? Is it that they want to speak on stage at Cisco Live or one of the big trade shows? So we're trying to build a program that's very audience centric and making sure that we mobilize our advocates in different ways depending on who they are.
Lidia, how's Bynder doing in terms of getting the people that it wants into the program?
Well, we're running the program only for our admin users, so they're naturally pretty senior. But the challenge is not necessarily to make them enroll into the program, but to keep them engaged. And we're doing the same than you. We're posting really relevant content for our target group.
Yep. Now notice that a couple of Influitive's advocates and senior people as well are on stage here acting as advocates today. So Mark, what does Influitive do to drive engagement from its advocates?
It's an interesting question. And we get this a lot. It can be definitely a challenge to engage senior people, but senior people are still human beings, right? We're not that different from other people. the fact that actually I'm here now in Ireland is interesting. Like, why am I here? Because I've got a big board offsite coming in 3 days, essentially meeting with my bosses and possibly deciding my future. But here I am in Ireland with all of you. So the reason why I'm here is, well, first I thought I would learn a few things that are important, and learning is in some ways even more important to people who are senior in their careers and not. Because if there's just one nugget that I get out of a conference like this, that could be completely destiny changing for my company. So it's one of the ways to engage with senior people is to provide knowledge that's really powerful and unique that they're not really going to be able to get elsewhere. So I think that's one. The second thing is networking, another big reason why I'm here. It's really hard to meet other people of a high caliber. And here I've got them in spades. I've gone to these speaker dinners and there's all these amazing people. And I'm willing to work really hard in order to make those connections. So that's another thing that you can do in your advocate programs if you offer knowledge sharing, if you offer an opportunity to make those connections, the second thing. The third thing, they did a pretty good job making us feel pretty special. We got these special badges, we get into the special parties, and frankly, it feels pretty good, right? So I think exclusivity is the third thing. So I think those are the three things, if you put them in there, you can get people to spend time in your advocate program. It's actually easier to do that than to get people to fly across the Atlantic Ocean, which is exactly what SaaStock managed to do with me. So.
Yeah, I think it comes back to Lydia's comment about the win-win situation that you're striving for. If you create opportunities for people that are, I didn't have to beg and plead to get them on stage. This is a great opportunity for them, hopefully, and it's a very good opportunity for us. So that's how we think about it. Let's open it up to other challenges. What are the biggest challenges you faced? I think one is around engaging with senior people. What other challenges have each of you faced in your program, and how have you or are you addressing those? Lidia, maybe start with you.
I think the biggest challenging before implementing the program was to get all my colleagues on board. So, I'm a marketer, so of course for us the value of reaching out to clients and engaging them and making them share our content is really, really clear. But our customer success teams, they were initially a little bit afraid of marketing directly reaching out to clients because we have a lot of enterprise clients, and customer success, of course, wants to keep them happy, and they're worried about having too many touch points to the client. But, we solved that. We actually hired a customer marketing role, and that person is responsible for closely being the link between customer success, the customers, the program, and reporting regularly to customer success what are the results and from the program.
Yeah. Cristina, what is Cisco facing as the biggest challenge?
Yeah, so one of the biggest challenges that we face when it comes to customer advocacy, customer marketing, is a complete shift in mindset around what does it mean to be an advocate for your business. So one of the things that we have done in the past is put a lot of pressure on our customers around a sales process. So, you've signed the deal, okay, you're going to do a reference, someone in marketing gets this opportunity, and usually the customer doesn't really want to do it. They kind of feel, pushed into a corner. And if they do, often the content doesn't get approved, and it's this really long-winded process. So one of the biggest challenges we're facing is trying to change people's mindset and perception of what advocacy is. So advocacy isn't just a reference. There are so many different types of advocacy and activities that you can motivate your customers to do. That's one of the things. One of the other things is, helping people understand that it's not just about a piece of technology. The technology really, really helps, but an advocacy program, a true advocacy program, is about integrating lots of different asks for your customer and giving them this holistic experience. So it's about, your physical events, your digital experience, the customer journey. It's pulling all of those things together and getting to know your customers and when is the right time to ask them for those more snackable acts of advocacy.
Thank you. Mark, have we faced similar challenges to them, or is it unique for a company like Influitive?
Yes, we're an advocate marketing company, but we're also trying to push the boundaries of this idea. And the thing that we're working on right now, and it's tough, is trying to inject advocacy much more tactically into the buying process. Like, how many people here are trying to do account-based marketing right now? Anybody trying this idea? Yeah, I mean, this is the big thing, right? Although it's not that big of an idea. I mean, we were doing this back in like the early 2000s. The idea is you take target accounts and you really want to hit all the different areas of the buying center. You want to give everybody in the buying center a specific experience. And so when I think of the perfect buying process, it's not surrounding the buyer with all of our content. It's surrounding the buyer with all of the right people to influence that person to go and make a decision faster. Turns out it's a hard problem to do, but that's what we're really trying to perfect, right? So that every buyer has access to exactly the right types of people and advocate-driven content in order to make their decision faster. And we're trying all kinds of experiments in order to make that happen.
Yeah. What have you experienced? Yeah, I'm going to the audience, so I'd love to hear what your challenges are, how you're resolving those, if you've got a nascent program to drive some of these things. Did you have a comment? Astrid, can you bring a mic up here? Oh, then we'll go to Kelly in the front. Go ahead.
A lot of what you're saying sounds like it applies to maybe like more established, larger startup. A lot of the people here that I've talked to are smaller, and they may not have a resource dedicated specifically to customer advocacy and building that out and having creative approaches there. What are your recommendations for a smaller company and how they can be creative when, they don't have maybe a FTE, a full-time employee, like really working on that?
Lydia, Bynder is closer than Cisco, say, to some of the startups that are here. How did you put this in place before you started working with a formal program? How did you think about it when you were smaller?
Great question. Of course, we didn't have a customer marketing role right from the beginning. You could also choose someone. Do you have a customer success team? So it could also be someone from customer success who is driving the program together with marketing, or it could be anyone, right? It really depends on what the goals of your program are. Is it to improve customer happiness, or do you have marketing targets? Then it would be probably someone from marketing, from PR, for example.
Great. Mark, what advice do we typically give to startups as to how to think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think every startup needs to at least build into their DNA this idea of getting their customers to do the sales and marketing for them. And it doesn't necessarily mean you need a formal program. Even as simple as having a dinner. We had a dinner last night where we invited some customers, we had some prospects and some other folks together in a room. Honestly, is a pretty low cost, quite enjoyable way to drive business, right? And it starts to build into your company DNA that the way we're going to grow this company is by delighting our customers, and then we're going to get our customers to go and say good things. That's how we're going to win. So even that is a great place to start. You can, if you have a software application, I assume most people here have a cloud-based software application because we're here at SaaS Talk. You probably have something like a user voice or intercom or whatnot that is popping up and asking for help. Why don't you also say, oh, and by the way, if you enjoy this experience, can you give us a net promoter score? If someone gives you a 9 or 10, say, could you shoot a little video of your experience with our product? You'd be amazed at what that might do. So it's not necessarily a formal scaled up program, but at least it starts the seeds of, builds into your company, lets all your engineers and product people especially know this is how we're going to win. We're going to make sure our users are absolutely delighted. You get customer success involved. If you have product managers in your company, I think they're also great people to use to go and build a little mini advocacy program, because it sends a message to that product manager that your job is not just to go and create a good product. You actually have to create a delightful product, right? Your goal is to create a product that people love so much that they're willing to freely donate their time and reputation in order to advocate for it. Because I think there's a tendency for product people to turn inwards and focus on the engineering process instead of focusing outward and how we delight users and customers.
Kelly has a question in the front row.
Oh,
There it is.
hi, my name is Kelly. Our company's Chatter.ai. We have a conversational UI data analytics tool. And similar to the previous question, we don't launch till mid-November. So the thing we've been struggling with internally is the whole customer advocacy versus market influencers. And one thing that's come up a little bit is that some of these market influencers, like clearly their time is worth something. So I agree, we all would have all of our customers, or we want everyone to love our product so much that they're willing to donate their time. But I'm curious, your experience either with yourselves or with other companies you've talked to, what are the things you do sometimes? Is it monetary value? Is it just taking them out for beers one day? What does the engagement look like in the initial stages from there?
You better be a great conversationalist if the beer is your reward. Thoughts on motivating, especially influencers versus advocates? Anyone want to address that?
Yeah,
Cristina?
Yeah, I can. So an influencer. Well, for us at Cisco, we obviously have quite a big influencer program already. But the way we look at advocacy is that we're actually giving anyone an opportunity to advocate for Cisco. So not necessarily an influencer yet. So we're trying to mobilize and motivate customers in lots of different ways. So depending on what their role is, we're learning a lot as we go. We're learning from the experts, but certainly there are some lower cost things that motivate people. So we launched our advocacy program at Cisco Live, where we had a giant igloo, and it was the focus was around recruitment. But it turned out that this became a hub at Cisco Live where all of our advocates came to hang out. And we gave away things like the standard T-shirts and swag, and that works for some people. But as I sort of alluded to before, some of the other bigger motivational items that we offer are things like lunch with our executives at Cisco Live. That is really, really powerful. Or meeting with a product engineer, or someone that they wouldn't necessarily have access to. So certainly things like that are really, really working for us when it comes to those the customers that are giving us product feedback, or becoming part of a customer advisory board, for example. So I hope that helps.
Mark, how do you think about compensation and advocates versus influencers?
Influencers, advocates is a fascinating topic. I read this quote once that said, every revolution requires both intellectuals and partisans. So if you're building a startup, you're trying to create a revolution, right? You're trying to upend the old order. So if you think about the American Revolution, for example, you had the intellectuals like Thomas Paine, and you had the people at the Boston Tea Party throwing all the tea over. Right? So the advocates are the people throwing the tea over the boat. Although if you're B2C, it's hard to think of Kim Kardashian necessarily as an intellectual, but she's an influencer, and that's her role. So they have different roles, right? And actually, I think you need them both, and they're symbiotic. And you can actually use one to motivate the other, and vice versa. So typically, the difference is an intellectual cares about their reputation and wants to be seen as impartial because they are a luminary, whereas the partisans, they are completely comfortable saying, this is the best product ever, and everybody should buy it, right? So these are different things. And so some of the things you do to influence both of those. So for one thing, it's great if you can find these sort of underground influencers that not everybody knows, right? So you're a small startup. You can't afford to you might even be able to afford to take an intellectual out for beer, right? You don't have a lot of money. So can you find those people that are in the long tail? And the best people to ask about that are your early users and customers, and say, who influences you? One of my favorite questions is, what is influential for you now that was completely off your radar 6 months ago? In fact, it's one of the reasons why we're here at SaaS Talk, is that we heard that. We actually heard that from some of our customers. It says, this little event in Ireland is actually really good, right? And it's why we're sort of out here in force, because we found out about it, right? Whereas like SaaStr, that conference is much, much bigger, right? So you find out about people and other things that are newly influential that were sort of previously off the radar. And that way you can focus your very, very scarce resources and focus them all on an area where you're more likely to have an impact. We found, though, in reverse, you can get your advocates to influence the influencers. So in our space, those would be analysts. Analysts don't have quite the pull that they used to have. For those old timers in here in the audience, you may have spent a whole bunch of money on Gartner and Forrester in the past to get them to put you in your magic quadrant. I mean, the good news is that's not as impactful as it used to be. There's all kinds of peer-reviewed places now where that happens. But one hack that we learned is that you can get your advocates to go and opine on the blog of the analyst, because every analyst has a blog. And so if the analyst sees that 3 or 4 people are all talking about your market space and product, they go, well, there's something here, right? Because they go, well, it's kind of like if there's one cockroach, there's actually a lot of cockroaches, right? So there's a lot going on, because like if 3 people are talking about it, that means 3 million people really care about this particular topic. So that's one hack that we learned about. In terms of motivating influencers, I mean, they don't, the things that motivate them, I mean, they want to find some secret information that often, especially analyst firms, they want to find out some secret things that are not available to everyone else. That's one of the areas, again, where you can provide that information, or better yet, your customers can provide that information because they're seen as impartial. So I think these are sort of 2 symbiotic things that sort of mutually reinforce each other.
Yeah. Any other challenges people have faced that they want to address before we move on to the next question? No? Okay, I'd like to shift then and talk about how each of you has structured your organization to adapt to advocacy. Lidia, maybe we'll start with you, because you mentioned that you hired someone, you brought someone in, and that there was an internal change management or selling that had to happen. So how do you think about structuring Bynder to take advantage of your customers as advocates?
I think it affects many departments, not only marketing and customer success. For example, we also got sales involved, because sales can help a lot to get future customers involved in your customer reference program. For example, they should never give discount without asking for something. So I think that's how we got a lot of customer also pretty much willing to help us out and join the program. Of course, yeah, it's a lot of sharing information, sharing results. We have like a weekly internal newsletter we send to customer success, where we share which customer has asked which question, who's the most engaged customers, are there any is there any feedback?
Yeah. So a lot of internal communication flows required to organize the organization. Cristina, Cisco is many times bigger than almost all the companies in the room here. How is putting advocacy through a company the size and breadth of Cisco gone?
So it's not as easy as you would think. Everyone assumes that because we're Cisco, we have loads of budget and loads of people that are just going to do this stuff. Turns out that's not true. So we've had similar struggles that I think startups have, because essentially what we're doing is this startup within a big, huge organization with 82,000 employees. So, what we've had to do is, there's a few key things. So we've actually transformed our marketing strategy just recently for this financial year, where we've positioned advocacy as core to our success. So our strategy now focuses on being an advocate-led marketing organization. So really embedding advocacy across the landscape, so within all parts of the business. So we do have a team. So I have a team of 4 people now that are focused on different key areas. But essentially, advocacy is becoming part of everyone's role. So that's coming from the CMO down, and we're trying to build that into everyone's role. So when they think about, for example, content, how can they first go to our advocates to partner on those kind of things before spending money on producing content with an agency. So that's one sort of key area, I'd say.
Anyone in the audience want to share how they've structured their organization to take advantage of advocacy and engage with customers in this way? A couple of you run advocate programs. Any thoughts? No? Quiet crowd. Okay, we'll move on. Next, I want to talk about where each of you 3 sees the programs that you're running, the way you engage with your advocates going over the next 2 to 3 years. So looking out, are there ways this will enhance? Are there ways it'll grow in scope? What are you thinking? Mark, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah. So I sort of alluded to one of the things that we're really working with now, which is how to more deeply embed advocacy in the way that we go to market, and eventually a lot of our customers will go to market in the same way. I spent a lot of time thinking about what is the right experience for a buyer, for an advocate, whatever. I think we're in the experience revolution here. I think that's one of the biggest sort of changes in thinking that we have, and so a lot of thinking about, well, what does the ideal buying process look like, and how do we drive that for people who might buy our product, and how do we help our customers do that for people who might buy their products, and that means like much more fine-grained ability to again to sort of inject advocacy or advocates into the buying process. And what that also means is that we need to get a lot more sophisticated about understanding the needs and motivations of advocates, and trying to really understand them at a very deep level. So for every advocate, what are their most desired things that they want to do? Why do they want to do that? Like really get sort of into their heads so they can get the best opportunities to drive social capital for themselves.
Great. Cristina, where is Cisco going with this in your vision at the moment?
Yeah, so our vision, as I sort of mentioned before, is around becoming this advocate-led organisation, I guess, more than just marketing. And it is becoming more than, of course, just marketing. It's really becoming prolific across the business. So many people are seeing the value already. But in terms of kind of strategic goals that we've set out, we want to reduce our cost of content. So we spend a lot of money on content production. This is, one of the strategic initiatives that we need to meet as a business, and not only just the cost, but we want our content to be a lot more authentic. Cisco is very good at producing, big shiny brand hero stories, customer case studies, and some of that will still happen. But we want to get a lot closer to our customers. We want to get a lot closer to our prospects, and we want to tell stories. True stories that are going to help, impact their business and help them be successful. So really, this content piece is really, really key. There are some other key areas around referrals. So we're looking to drive more referrals through peers, and really focus on how we can help the sales organization be more, reactive to our advocates as well.
Great. And Lidia, as Bynder grows, where does advocacy go as a tool?
For us, word of mouth is a really, really important channel. So we really want to set some targets behind new business generated by customer referrals. Mm-hmm. Also, of course, we want to make sure that all our clients join our program, which is called Bynder Champions. So we really want to embed it into the onboarding process of new clients and really ingrain it as part of of the experience.
Great. So some real expansion across life cycle, across personas. That's great. Anyone in the audience have plans they want to share for how they think about advocacy growing at their company? If not, we can move into questions from you. But happy to take either comments on this topic or additional questions for the panel. There's got to be some questions. We've got 3 advocacy experts up here, and you all came at 10 in the morning to attend.
Ask about anything else. Okay.
We got a question in the front. Thank you.
I've heard different stats, like from Forrester, they mentioned that 50% of your homepage should be based on like customer content. Do you guys have any idea of like what that ratio should be, or actually how much customer content should be in your program?
Great question. So to what degree does the front marketing facing side of a company, should it be customer centric? Mark, I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, I'd love it to be 100%, right? I think, ideally, in the buying process, when I think about the best possible buying process that I could think about, it would be that I have somebody exactly like me who's got my situation,
my title, my geography, and everything that I can truly trust, and they're guiding me through making a decision. That would be ideal for me. So I think that the ideal answer is as close to 100% as possible, right? I think that's why a lot of companies need, for this day and age, sometimes maybe 100, 1,000 times more stories than they have today. And that is because I think what a lot of buyers what they're craving is they want to be guided by the hand by someone that they trust to go and make a really good decision. So what should the ratio be? I don't know, right? It's not easy to get customer content. That's one of the reasons why we're in business. But I would say as much customer-driven content as you possibly can get, you can never go wrong with it. Right? I don't know if
Cristina, you mentioned recently that one of your advocate stories is featured on Cisco.com. So I think it's a great example of the program feeding that content. How would you approach this question of degree?
Yeah, so I'd absolutely agree with what Mark is saying. We're learning a lot from experts like Influitive and lots of their customers. I've seen recently one of their customers, they had a landing page that was the only thing you see is customer content at G2 Crowd, and it just for me really, really works. It makes me want to read on and actually find out about the products. So for Cisco, it's been a huge shift, because if you've ever visited Cisco.com, I mean, it's getting a lot better, I have to say, but it's an absolute minefield, of products and solutions and architectures, and it's just so confusing for our customers, and we're really trying to fix that. So as Fraser just alluded to there, recently through our advocate program, we identified a customer who has done a variety of acts of advocacy for us, and I guess recently the icing on the cake is that we had the first ever customer story featured on Cisco.com, albeit a week, but it was a big tick in the box for me. And the other tick in the box, it was a European customer story. So hugely successful, and the customer, of course, was absolutely delighted. So I think for us, it's we want to really get to that point where, as Mark said, it's about having the right customer journey and making sure that the touch points are aligned to that buying, the buying process. So peer-to-peer, there isn't any more powerful content than peer-to-peer.
Yeah. Lidia, similar approach, or what's your thought?
Yeah, generating trust is so important when you're selling software via your website or anything. So Bynder.com, we have we have something about our clients on every single page. We have videos embedded. We have the customer logos on the front page. And our customer videos are actually the most viewed videos of all of our videos. So,
I think when organizations really embrace advocacy, they put their customers not only on the homepage, they put them everywhere they can. There's one company I can think of with their program. At an event like this, their booth would be staffed not by sales and marketing people, but by advocates volunteering their time to work in the booth. And the shock that someone gets when they walk over and shake their hand and say, "Oh, are you on the sales team?" And they say, "No, I'm a happy customer of this company. I'm volunteering to be here for a free airfare." It puts a smile on that buyer's face, because they, to your question, they have the ability to speak with a real customer. You had a question here, yeah, Astrid, thank you.
So I work at grow.com, so we're all into, I work at grow.com, and we're all into business analytics and tracking your KPIs. So on that question, how do you track your success truly, and how are you able to see the impact your influencers are making, and what kind of, how does that really lead to maybe a bottom line? Like, what are your metrics, and where do you see the influence?
Tracking and measurement. Lydia, how does it work at Bynder?
Well, we measure a new business coming through, so leads generated, net new MRR through customer referrals, but also churn, of course, reducing churn. Another thing is we get direct feedback from our clients, so we directly get the chance to interact with them and resolve issues that are there,
And Cristina, at Cisco, it's a large organization, I'm sure, complex processes for tracking.
Yeah, we have a very complex, but recently a lot better system for measuring KPIs. So we measure engagement points. So that's a combination of Adobe Analytics and all sorts of things coming together, including now our Influitive results and KPIs. So we look at engagement points and, at what point in the buyer's journey, what helped them make the decision, basically. So we used to look at last touch, so more so first touch, and now we're looking at the middle and how that's impacting the buying decision. So we don't have the answers for it yet, but we're working on a solution that enables us to see how at what stage in the buying journey was that helped to really close the deal.
Mark, this is something we talk about a lot at Influitive, tracking.
And it's a lot of good stuff here on sort of the funnel metrics that you'd expect. But what's interesting about an advocate program is that you've got a lot of metrics that are more reminiscent from what you'd find in like a video game or like a fitness app, that sort of thing, because engagement is so important. So the way you think about it, you've probably heard this expression before, that this advocate army, we're trying to build the size and strength of it, right? And a number of our customers, especially the ones that are really advanced, they're even reporting to their board of directors, like, here's the size of what we have 150 that are currently engaged. This is the current flow, the funnel of how long it takes to get an advocate from being a new person that is newly introduced to our program to being somebody that will speak on stage and will help with writing and other sort of content and referrals and other sort of challenging types of things. So there's like an advocate funnel, just like there is a customer funnel, right? And the way to think of it is you want to try to get as many advocates as you can from being a brand new customer to being a rock star advocate, however you define it. And you want to be able to do that with having the least amount of time and the least amount of cost in order to go and create that. So I think of sort of maybe it's more advanced sort of stuff, but that would be the advocate funnel. And yeah, I mean, I do think companies that have the largest and most well-equipped army of advocates are going to be the ones that win, because you have this unpaid, amazing group of people who are more effective at selling and marketing than you are, and they're doing that work, right?
Great. Any last questions? There's time for one more question. I'd love one more there on the right-hand side.
Thank you. Hi, just a question possibly related to the last point. Would you go as far as to say there's gamification involved in that? And also, is there any linkage between certification? To give you possibly not a great example, but there's a company in the US that it's called Snap-on Tools. They make tools for all sorts, but the mechanics that fix your car, those mechanics, most of their lifetime's ambition is to own a set of Snap-on tools. They're the best advocates for their products. But I'm particularly interested in whether you would be think there's use for gamification.
So I'm a big fan of gamification. We do have it in our advocate programs. The ones that our customers use have extensive use of it. I believe that game mechanics is basically take some things that humans fundamentally need, which are feedback on how they're doing, and makes it fun and interesting. So we've made pretty extensive use of those ideas, which are, for example, levels, right? People are motivated to increase their standing in what they do. They want to be a master mechanic one day. One badge that a master mechanic has is a whole chest full of Snap-on tools, right? It's a big mobile badge that they have. Well, human beings are like that, right? In the military, you see people, who have a high-ranking individual have all kinds of ribbons and stars on their chest, right? Why is that, right? That's a symbol of accomplishment. So human beings are driven by this, and you can put these into your advocate program so you show that they are a more accomplished person. Leaderboards is another great example that comes from games, and they're absolutely addictive, right? They're people that are really motivated, again, sort of climb up in the ranks, and some people who they like to just beat other people. It's one of their motivators in life, right? So That's another thing that you could put into your program. But even people who are not that competitive or achievement oriented can be motivated by game mechanics, but just different ones. So for those that need to motivate technical folks, right? So folks at Cisco, for example, a lot of technical people, not always motivated by beating other people, but maybe motivated by discovery, right? So discovering new sort of hidden things, Easter eggs and that sort of thing. So like sometimes you might have an advocate say, well, I wonder how did I get that? I just got this little prize. How did that happen? And might spend a week trying to figure out and doing advocacy and trying to figure out how they got that. There's other people who are really motivated by connecting socially to other people, right? In fact, that's a big chunk of advocates. Why they do what they do is they actually want to meet other people like themselves. So these are all things that you can put into your program, and actually the best way to put it in your program is make it fun. And that's why I'm a fan of game mechanics. Yep.
Great. I think we're out of time for the questions, so we'll end on a fun one, surprise one to the panelists. What company do you each advocate for personally? Who's a company that you are personally an advocate for? Lidia, on the spot.
HubSpot, for example.
HubSpot, great. Cristina.
I'm not going to say a company, I'm actually going to say a school. So my children's school, they go, bit of a plug here, but they go to one of the most unique schools in the UK.
Yeah.
I'm a massive advocate for it.
Great. And Mark?
Lots, but last night I advocated for Robert Graham shirts, which unfortunately I'm not wearing today, but Robert Graham's a designer and he makes these just really unique creations. And they're like collectibles, and last night I made a great connection with somebody who's based on our shirts, and so it's amazing when you can build rapport with somebody just based on what you're wearing. So I'm a fan.
Great. Well, thank you to the audience for your wonderful questions and comments. Thank you to the panel. Big round of applause for the panelists.